Welcome to another episode of Bon Voyage Besties with your hosts, Rosa and Rachel. And today we're super excited to be talking all about simplifying with points and miles. And we have a special guest with us, Genni Franklin, who is the founder of Traveling Franklins and the Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group, where she helps travelers save money while exploring the world. She simplified points and miles, showing you how easy it is to travel affordably without sacrificing comfort.
We're so excited to have you here. Thank you, guys. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so honored that you asked me to be on your podcast. We're super stoked. So, for anyone in our audience new to travel awards and redemptions, could you just give a brief overview of the concept for them? Yeah, absolutely. So travel rewards programs, they were created as like a thank you to loyalty customers for spending money with airlines, hotels, rental car companies, etc. And these programs usually reward loyalty in the form of points and miles, which is what you hear a lot of people talk about. They just kind of reference travel rewards as points and miles, but it's all the same thing. And then so these rewards or points, those are currency of these loyalty programs. So just like the US dollar or the Canadian dollar, they're currencies for the loyalty program. So like the money that the loyalty program is giving you as a reward for your loyalty. So with these loyalty rewards, you can spend it just like money, and you can use them to buy flights, hotels, stuff like that. And you can earn these points or rewards by paying to fly with the airline or paying to stay at a specific hotel chain. But unless you're a frequent traveler, it's probably going to take you a really long time to be able to earn enough points and miles in order to cover free flight or get even one free night at a hotel, which is where travel rewards credit cards come in. So travel rewards credit cards, they give you the ability to not only earn these loyalty points by spending money to fly or stay in hotels, but you can also earn on your everyday spending. So that's what I love about travel rewards, is that you don't need to be a business traveler or an elite flyer to take advantage of these loyalty programs. Anyone can do it.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's funny, when I was growing up, I was always operating under the misconception that credit cards are bad, that they're dangerous, that if you spend too money on a credit card, you'll be in big trouble. But I will say United's program, they have a really good credit card, and the annual fee is a lot, but it has saved me a boatload on flights. I could think of one example. I'm going to spring break to Florida to spend time with my family, and because spring break is considered peak period, United's charging an arm and a leg. It's something ridiculous. I think it's almost as much as my flight to Japan. It's absurd. But because I had all of these miles, thanks to their credit card and strategic spending, I was only charged $15. So it really did save me a ton of cash. It was a lifesaver for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's really amazing once you start to kind of get into this and you realize the power of rewards and, travel rewards, loyalty points, it's all the same thing. A lot of people kind of get confused about that. And once you realize that it doesn't really take that much, it's kind of like something like you think, wow, like this is for real. Like people think it's a scam. Like they don't understand that it's like a real thing. But what you were saying about United, and since it's high season, I think you said that it was like a lot of points, but then you only spent $15. That's one of the reasons why I talk a lot about what a lot of people call flexible points currencies, because I said that it's kind of like money, right? It's basically like you have the US dollar and the Canadian dollar. They're both money, right? But that doesn't mean that they hold the same value. A lot of people think that points and miles, they're all created equal. But just like the US dollar is worth differently than the Canadian dollar, these points and miles are also worth different values as well. So flexible currencies, like with credit cards that are like the Chase Sapphire Preferred or like the Amex Platinum, those types of credit cards, and not a credit card that would be earning, like what you were saying, United miles. Those types of credit cards, like the Chase Sapphire Preferred, you can use those to pay for flights. You can use those to pay for hotels. So you have a lot of options, which I'm not trying to say that the United Miles credit card is a bad credit card. It's still something that's good, especially if it works for you. But I like to recommend the flexible currencies so that you can use them for different things. And that way you're not kind of locked in, and then you have a lot more opportunities to use your points.
So true. The Chase Sapphire Preferred was my first travel credit card. It's still my baby. I love it.
Yes. It was my first travel credit card too. And I've definitely had so many credit cards since then, but I'm still a Chase girly. And I still tell people that Chase is so easy to earn, so many opportunities that those credit cards give you to be able to earn rewards and redeem them. It's really one of the easiest programs and one that I recommend to people, especially if they're a beginner, for sure.
Yeah, I started my travel journey with Chase specifically. So in full transparency, when I was younger, I was terrible with credit card and mismanaging those funds. It was not fun. So obviously my credit score kind of tanked a little bit. So not very smart. So that's one advice I give. You have to be smart and, make sure that you're kind of understanding credit card, paying things off and all that fun stuff. Because at the very beginning, when I was much younger, I was not very credit savvy. So once I finally got on the right path, I started with the Chase United. And like you said, it's great because now you're able to rack up extra points and miles just with everyday purchases. So I remember my very first trip, I ended up flying to Cuba and I paid like $75 for the airfare, which I thought was awesome. Yeah.
And
I was like,
amazing. No such thing as a bad redemption here.
Exactly. So I thought it was pretty cool that I was able to fly to Cuba, paid $75 using miles that I had accrued with the credit card directly. So after that, I was kind of obsessed and hooked, and I'm always on the hunt for like a good deal. Personally hate overpaying for anything. So using points and miles whenever I can, it's a big money saver right there.
Yeah, it really supplements our travel expenses for sure, because I'm the type of person that wants to take a more laid back approach to points and miles. I think we were talking about it before we started recording about how it just seems overwhelming and super complicated. People are really focused on trying to get the perfect redemption. And it's not really about that. It's more about being consistent with what you're doing, being more savvy with credit cards, and really building a foundation that will then, help you to make those redemptions, earn those points, and you can keep things simple and still be super successful.
Yeah, I love the idea of how there's no bad redemption. I don't remember where I read this. It was a social media post, but the poster was super excited because they use points or miles, I'm not quite sure which one, to get a free ticket. Yeah, pretty much the same thing. To get a ticket to Florida to see spring training. And some of the comments were a little judgy, like, oh, why would you use your points on that? And really, if it works for you, it works for you. I'm not really the one who's going to be counting every single point to make sure it's the perfect redemption. If it's something that makes me happy, I'm just going to go for it.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole point is to save money on travel. I hate paying full price too. That's one of the reasons why I got into this, is because I used to work at hotels and we'd get team member discounts. I think the lowest I ever spent in a hotel was $35 a night when I was working in hotels, which was amazing. But then I made a career shift and I no longer had those discounts. And I was like, there's no way that I can pay full price now. So I was like, I can't go back. So that's how I found points and miles. And, as long as you're saving money on travel, you should be able to do whatever you want to do. And if you start with that attitude, you'll start to learn things like, how many points does it really take to fly to Europe on, and which different airlines should I be using? Which credit card points should I be earning in order to be able to earn enough points for a decent redemption? But when you're first starting out, you don't need to worry about that stuff at all. What you really should be worrying about, especially if you're going to be using credit cards, is, am I financially stable enough to be able to apply for credit cards? Am I going to be able to pay the statement off in full and on time? Do I have the discipline to be able to use my credit card like a debit card? And Rosa's like, no. It's okay.
I'm better.
You can do it, I promise. And so those are the things you should really be worrying about in the beginning and working on. And then once you've worked on that, then you can start to think about the next thing, like, okay, if I'm ready for a credit card, what credit card should I get? And stuff like that. So when it comes to making that perfect redemption, getting the most value. I mean, yeah, that's great. And I do calculate my cents per point sometimes, but it's not because if I'm not getting 2 cents per point, then that means I'm not going to be spending my points. It's more like I just want to understand the kind of value I'm getting. And if this is going to save me money and allow me to be able to take this trip, then I'm probably going to use the points.
Which is good. And I think that was one of the biggest misconceptions for me, at least when I started utilizing points and miles to save on travel. I would hear other people talk about, I flew first class to go to Europe. While I'm just like, oh, I just got, basically a free flight to go to Orlando. And I'm over here thinking I'm maximizing my points and my miles. But then when I'm hearing other stories, I kind of felt a little bit self-conscious because I didn't think I was utilizing my strategies properly to maximize my points. But what are some of the other misconceptions when it comes to using points and miles?
I think the biggest one is probably thinking that you need to know everything before you get started, because people, they really do get intimidated like you, and they think, oh, I'm seeing these people making these amazing redemptions on social media. Like, am I really doing this the right way? And there's really no right or wrong way. It's really just the best way that fits your life. So there's no right or wrong way with this at all. And for those people who are intimidated, they think that they need to know everything, or they are maybe getting FOMO, or they're thinking, there's no way that I would be able to do what they're doing. Don't try to do what they're doing. Do what works best for you. And eventually, maybe if that's what you want to do, you will be able to take a trip like that. But if it's not what you want to do, then don't do it. So I think that that's really one of the biggest misconceptions. And then another thing that I think you did touch on as well is people think that if you get into travel rewards credit cards, then your credit score just like takes a nosedive immediately. And that's so not true, especially if you are utilizing best practices with credit cards, paying your statement off on time and in full. I mean, my credit score was in the mid 700s before I started getting into travel rewards credit cards. And now it's consistently between 830 and 850. So, I mean, the more credit cards I got and the more I was able to show the credit card companies that I can be responsible, the higher my credit score got. Now, when you do apply for a credit card and you get approved, well, even if you don't get approved, when you apply for a credit card, your score does take a dip, and people freak out over that dip. But I mean, the credit scores are extremely complicated, and they go down sometimes seemingly for no reason. And when it comes to applying for a credit card, your score is going to go down. But again, if you are utilizing best practices, it's going to go up, and it may even be higher than it was before. So that's another huge misconception. And then the last one I would say would be that you are automatically going to be in debt if you're using credit cards. But again, if you pay your statement on time and in full every month, it's just like using a debit card at that point.
Yeah, I'm much smarter and wiser now than I was when I was 18, just using my credit cards for the most random purchases and maxing them out. It was really bad.
No, and a lot of people fall into that. I mean, I remember when I started to get into this, my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, he thought that I was crazy. He was totally against credit cards because he was in the same situation where he got into debt. He didn't really know how credit cards worked. He was super scared of credit cards and absolutely did not want to get one. His credit score was not good. But once we kind of started to do research together, I was applying for credit cards, and we were planning a trip. And seems like a million years ago, back in like 2015 or something. And we were planning a trip to Europe. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take out a travel rewards credit card, my first one. And we're already spending money for this Europe trip. Let me just put that on this card, earn the welcome bonus, and then see what I can do with these points. And I earned the welcome bonus. And I said, well, let me see if I can get a hotel in London. I ended up using the points through the bank portal to get 3 free nights in London. First redemption ever. Looking back now, I did everything wrong. I booked through the portal. I just didn't know what the hell I was doing. But I think back on it and I don't even care. We had such a great time. I was so excited, and it gave me the confidence to then be like, you know what? This actually works. The only thing I did differently was get a credit card and use that for stuff I was already spending money on. So because he saw that, then he's got a credit card, and then his credit score started to go up, and now he's in the 800s too, and like all these years later. So it really does pay, literally, to just kind of like start small, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny with credit scores. I was actually joking about this with my students today. We have financial literacy at school, and I was like laughing about it because my score is also in the 800s. And I always say, yeah, they may want to have another look at that because I try to pay the balance off in full, but there's, sometimes things can happen. So I kind of make light of it. But yeah, going back to what you said, Rosa, about maxing them out, sometimes with these travel credit cards, you get huge lines of credit. And something you do need to tell yourself is just because it's there doesn't mean you have to like push it all the way up to the max. But just something else that I'm curious about is that you talked about the sign up bonus. I think sometimes a big misconception is with these rewards programs is you have to spend a ton of money to accumulate any points, and that is going to be a long, slow grind to get there. So I know sign-up bonuses are an allure. What are some other ways to accumulate these points and miles so you're not just spending for years to get a redemption?
Yes, absolutely. Contrary to popular belief, you don't have to spend $1 million to earn 1 million points. You can spend a hell of a lot less in order to get to 1 million points. And as you mentioned, welcome bonuses are huge. If you earn 60,000 bonus points, that's enough for a business class flight with some airlines. If you don't know what a welcome bonus is or a sign-up bonus, they're the same thing. And basically what that's saying is if you get this credit card, the credit card company is telling you, we're going to give you 60,000 bonus points, but you have to spend, let's say, $4,000 within a 3-month period. It's not $4,000 per month. They're just saying within 3 months, we want you to have at least $4,000 in order for you to get 60,000 bonus points. And that's bonus points. So if that credit card is already earning you 2x on everyday purchases, you're going to earn 2x on $4,000 plus 60,000 bonus points. So that's huge right there. So that's why a lot of people talk about that and they kind of get super crazy and laser focused on applying for a lot of credit cards. But there are other ways to earn points as well, especially if you're in between applying for new welcome bonuses, because you really don't want to apply for too many credit cards within a short amount of time. You want to space out your credit card applications. I would say at least 90 days. Have I applied for a credit card in 30 days of getting approved for one? Absolutely. Does it work? Most of the time, but it really depends. It really depends. So I would recommend like at least 90 days. So anyway, so if you are in the waiting period, there are other ways that you can earn points. You can earn points by referring, which is part of a strategy that I love, which we call the P2 strategy. A lot of people refer to the points and miles game as a game. And so I'm talking about whoever's listening, you're probably the player one, the P1. And then you have somebody that you drag along and they're the player 2, the P2, which for me is my husband. And then maybe sometimes you have a P3, which would be my mom, who just applies for credit cards when I tell her to. And a lot of times it depends on the credit card, but if you refer your P2 or your P3, not only do they hit the welcome bonus if they meet that minimum spend, but then if they get approved for the credit card, you then get referral bonuses. And 1 year we earned, let's see. Yeah, so Chase used to do 40,000 points per referral for their business credit cards. And 1 year I referred my husband 3 times, I believe. So that's like,
Sweet.
Do the math.
A lot. That's amazing. Good for you.
Yeah. So now it's 20,000 points. So it wasn't the same credit card. There were 3 different credit cards. So we just like referred each other back and forth. So yeah, that's another really great way. And a P2 strategy is super helpful because you guys can alternate credit card applications. So let's say I'm waiting to apply for the next credit card. In the meantime, if my husband is prime for a new card, then he can apply for one and he can earn a welcome bonus. If you can meet the minimum spends, people will then apply for credit cards like every couple months. Now, I'm the type of person that doesn't like to apply for a ton of credit cards each year. We apply for maybe a handful. So again, to supplement, another great thing would be shopping portals. I don't know if you've ever heard of Rakuten. I see, Rachel, you're nodding your head. Yeah. Are you into Rakuten?
Actually, for shopping portals, so full disclosure, Newark is my base, so I use United constantly. So I do use the United shopping portal. So whenever I say have to buy makeup, or even like I'm on a candle kick recently, so even with Yankee Candle, I double check to see if the portal would pop up so I could get miles for my candles. So I use their shopping portal. But that's mostly because, and it's the same with Rosa, Newark Airport's right there, and United like dominates Newark Airport, so we have a lot of flights.
Yeah, I always like to look at my rewards on my credit card and see, like, again, for everyday purchases. Like the other day, I wanted something from Foot Locker. So Amex had, if you use your Amex card, you would get like $50 back on your purchase. So I used Rakuten. It transferred me over to Foot Locker, and then I used my Amex card and got a further discount, and I'm making money on Rakuten. So there are strategic ways that you can kind of duplicate the money, and you're already spending the money anyway. So
exactly. And we call that stacking. That's like the perfect example of a stack right there, because what you're doing is not only are you taking advantage of the regular earning rate that you're going to get with your American Express, that's one level, but you're also activating an offer, which would be bonus points that American Express is giving you. That's the second level. And then you are also shopping through a shopping portal like Rakuten, and that's a three-way stack. So it's a stack because you are basically stacking offers onto each other and then maximizing that one purchase. So amazing. And there's like many, many different shopping portals. So Rakuten is a good one because it allows you to earn American Express membership rewards. So if you have an American Express credit card that earns membership rewards like the Platinum or the Gold, then you can turn your cash back into membership rewards, which can be very valuable. And then Rachel, with the United Miles, there's other airlines that have shopping portals as well, like American Airlines. That's a really huge one because with American Airlines, it's a really valuable currency because it's not as easy to earn. You can only earn it with like the credit cards, the co-branded credit cards that they offer by flying with American or through a shopping portal. Basically, those are like the main ways that you can earn. And there's no credit card anymore that transfers points from that bank to American Airlines. And you can get really great redemption values with American Airlines. So that's a really popular shopping portal. Delta has one. Basically, if you Google airline shopping portals, you will see like what airlines have shopping portals. Another thing is dining programs. Have you guys used dining programs before? Yeah.
I have not, but I've heard of them and I'm intrigued by them and I do want to start using them. So I'm all ears.
Yeah. So dining programs is another way. And I like to say it's a very lazy, passive way to earn as well. So basically what you do with a dining program is let's say Hilton has a dining program. You go to the Hilton dining program website, you sign up with your Hilton Honors membership. And then what you do is you add a debit card. You don't even need a credit card for this one. Whatever credit card you use to spend at restaurants, you would then connect to that dining program. And if that restaurant is partnering with the dining program, so let's say that dining program is offering 5x if you dine at Applebee's. So you go to Applebee's, you don't have to activate anything because you already added your card one time. You eat, you go to pay, and you'll automatically get those points. And you can stack with dining programs as well, because if you use like the Chase Sapphire Preferred or the American Express Gold, you're earning 3x or 4x, plus you'll be earning with the dining program. So it's another way to try to maximize the points earnings that you have on that one purchase. The thing about the dining programs, though, is that unless you're someone who wants to log on to the dining program and see which restaurants are offering bonus points, if you are dining somewhere that isn't partnering with that dining program, then you're not going to get the bonus points. But you don't have to activate anything. So a lot of times we'll go out to eat and I'll get an email saying I earned points, and I had no idea that restaurant was with the dining program. I added all of my credit cards that I use for dining out, and then poof, so it's just another thing that you can do in order to earn points.
And I always sign up for absolutely everything because I want to earn rewards. Just the other day, the Cheesecake Factory was like, hey, Rosa, you want a free cheesecake? And I was like, awesome. I went to Cheesecake Factory. I used one of my credit cards, earned extra points, got my free cheesecake. So I'm constantly signing up. So it's not just utilizing credit cards because there are a lot of other platforms. I know when I first started, similar to Rachel, I used to use the United shopping portal for all of my purchases. And this is before I even had any kind of credit card with them directly. And that's how I was able to earn so many miles. And I did a couple of travel rewards with United that I had earned and accumulated just by using the shopping portal.
It's a really great way to be able to earn, even if you aren't sure if you really want to get into credit cards. Doesn't mean you can't be earning those points.
And always look at your platform too for your credit cards because I always find offers. So just like the other day, I was on Bank of America and I bank with them for like my everyday checking and savings account. So I was looking and they had, I think like $5 bonus points if you went to Five Guys. And there's a Five Guys 2 blocks from my job. And I was like, oh, now I know what I'm going to have for lunch tomorrow. So when you're on your portal, you can find different offers that you might not necessarily know that's available to you. And lots of credits and a lot, like you said, with the dining portal. So there's also ways that you can kind of maximize your points and make that money kind of work a little bit harder for you without having to spend the extra money yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And the shopping portals, there's something I always recommend to my coworkers. So they'll actually ask me a little bit about points and miles. And it's really not my expertise, but I know like a little bit. And they'll ask, hey, is there any way that I can take advantage of this without credit cards? Because maybe people have had a bad history with credit cards or they're nervous about opening a new one. So I always tell them about the shopping portals being like, hey, just like use whatever card you have at the moment and you can start stacking some miles this way. And you don't have to run the risk of opening cards either.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you're not ready for credit cards, that's totally fine. But I do think it's something that if you can get into it, then it's really going to help you, like Rosa said, make your money work harder for you because you're already spending the money anyways. If you can use that credit card like a debit card, you basically are like paying yourself back. So like there's cash back credit cards. A lot sometimes I've talked about credit cards with people and they're like, I love my Costco credit card. And I'm just like, bless your heart. That's not what I'm talking about.
God, my students are trying to get me to sign up for Costco. We had this whole conversation the other day. They're like, you need a Costco membership. And I'm like, I don't need to spend more money.
I love Costco, but the Costco credit card is not getting me business class flights for like pennies on the dollar. I'm sorry. But yeah, so that's just one of the things you got to think about, as well as that, like, you can start small, but I really do encourage people, don't write off credit cards. Just get one. Try to wrap your head around it by just getting one. Start with one and then see how it goes. And then keep going from there. You can do this step by step. You really don't have to know everything and be an expert. I mean, I've been doing this since it's been like probably about a decade, and there's so much still to learn. If I wanted to wait until I became an expert in order to get started, I would have missed out on a lot of great travel experiences, like business class flights to Spain for under $300.
Amazing.
Yeah, like 3 nights at an all-inclusive luxury ranch for my wedding anniversary for $0. It was normally $1,700 a night. I mean, like, I would have missed out on a lot. So I just tell people all the time, don't worry about whether or not you know stuff. Don't worry about whether you know the best way to use your points. A lot of people get caught up on trying to figure out, okay, but how do I use these points after I earn them? But newsflash, you can't redeem points that you don't have. So let's focus on earning points. And for me, that's earning flexible points so that I have options when it comes to redeeming. If I'm earning flexible points, then I know that I'm going to be able to redeem them somehow. So I don't have to focus on whether or not these points are going to be worth anything or if I'm going to get a decent redemption. I don't have to focus on that. I can just focus on earning. And for me, I have to be able to focus on one thing at a time. Otherwise, my head's going to explode. So that's something that I tell people all the time. Just focus on one thing at a time. You can't redeem points that you don't have. So let's not worry about it.
I love that. You can't redeem points that you don't have. That should be like on a t-shirt for sure. I love it. I think it's great.
I need to create a merch store. I need no such thing as a bad redemption.
That's all mean. I love it.
And you can't redeem points that you don't have.
And I will buy that merch and I will get miles that way. So win-win.
Yes, exactly. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
We're here for it. Now, if you're a beginner, what would you recommend as the first credit card or for them to kind of look into to apply?
Yeah, so I always tell beginners that they need to focus on one type of currency. They can decide what that type of currency is. If they want my advice, it should be a flexible currency, especially if you want to take a laid back approach to this or a lazy approach that I like to say. And if it's flexible points, I always recommend that you start with Chase because, like I mentioned earlier, it's a really great program, especially for beginners, because there's a ton of options for earning that have a lot of great credit cards. And then another big reason is the 524 rule, which a lot of people talk about in the points and miles world, which is basically like Chase is probably not going to approve you if you've applied for 5 credit cards within the last 24 months. If that's the case, then you probably want to start with Chase credit cards. And then once you hit your 524, as people will say, then you can focus on other credit cards. One thing, though, is I tell people don't sleep on Capital One, though. I think the Capital One Venture and the Capital One Venture X are also really good options. And they're a little bit more stingy when it comes to applications. You want to space your applications like 6 months with that. So a lot of people like to start with Capital One for that reason. A great way to stay under 524 with Chase is to apply for business credit cards. So if you can apply for a business credit card, even as a beginner, then that's amazing. That opens up a whole new world of points and miles with credit cards for you. But yeah, if you're a beginner, I would definitely say Chase for flexible points or Capital One.
Awesome. Yeah, I love my Chase Sapphire Preferred. Like I said, it's my baby. It was my first ever travel credit card. And I actually have to thank my family for that because I was so intrigued when my parents opened it. And they were generous enough to gift me some points for a flight to Paris. And I just like saw that number come down for the cost of the flight. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, you can do this. It like opened my eyes to this whole new world. But with the credit cards, there also comes annual fees and maybe some other hidden fees. When should a beginner determine whether or not that annual fee is worth it? Because some of them can be pretty steep.
Yes, some of them can be pretty steep. Chase Sapphire Preferred has a $95 annual fee. And for the first year, that's a no-brainer because you're going to earn at least 60,000 bonus points if you hit that welcome bonus. That's like, that could be worth at least $1,000 in travel, depending on how you redeem that. So $95, like if I said to you, for $95, I'll give you $1,000. What would you say?
Hell yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So think about that when you are thinking about annual fees. 1. 2, after the first year, though, is that annual fee going to be worth it? And there's many things you can ask yourself, and it really depends on your specific situation. But if the answer is no, I don't want to pay this annual fee, you have a couple options. You can downgrade or you can cancel. I would probably recommend to downgrade if you can so that you can keep that credit line open. The average credit history, like the age of your credit history it's a pretty moderate factor when it comes to your credit card. Well, not moderate. I think it's high, actually, a high impact to your credit score. So you definitely want to be careful about at least canceling your oldest credit card for that reason. Anyway, so when it comes to annual fees, I think the Amex Platinum annual fee is like $695. And something like that, when the annual fee is pretty steep, I usually say for the first year, if you're going to hit the welcome bonus, it's probably going to be worth it. But if you have a bunch of credits, like you got to look at the benefits. For American Express Platinum, there's a bunch of different credits. You also get perks like complimentary airport lounge access, stuff like that. If you look at that and you're like, listen, I can take advantage of this $695 is totally worth it to me, then keep the credit card. It's really up to you and what you can handle as far as maximizing benefits. For someone like me, getting a credit card with an annual fee of $695 is kind of low on the priority list for me because I'm somebody who really wants to maximize all the benefits. And if it's going to be hard for me to do that, personally, it's not hard for some people, but for me, it would be like stressful and I'm just not going to do it. There are plenty of other credit cards out there, but just keep in mind, if you're thinking this credit, I would never pay money to spend money, which is how people look at annual fees sometimes. Think about a Costco membership, for example. Do you pay a Costco membership to be able to go spend money at Costco? Go eat those hot dogs. Have that pizza.
Just get all the free samples. Make it worth your while.
You do that, don't you? Because it's worth it. You have assessed that spending money on that Costco membership to then go spend more money, is worth it. It's the same thing with credit cards, with annual fees. So I've decided for myself that, and Rachel and Rosa have as well, because when I asked you, if you gave me $95 and I said, I'll give you $1,000, you said, hell yes, I'll do that. Then there you go.
We didn't even read the disclaimers or the hidden fees. Oh, we're like, just take the money.
Just do it. You'll come to me for financial advice, people. Just don't do it. No, not a financial advisor at all. Not even close.
I have done a lot of research. I've done this stuff myself. Credit score is, I forgot to check today, but it's probably like 840. And I'm no different than you guys listening. I'm no different. So there you go. But I mean, if we're talking about hidden fees too, I mean, like annual fees, some people say that's hidden. Usually when you apply for a credit card, they tell you about the annual fee, but something that people may not realize, especially when they see on social media, these people who are talking about these amazing redemptions. I got first class, which was originally $12,000, and I got this flight for free. Didn't technically get it for free because when you transfer your points from a bank to an airline, one thing that a lot of people don't like to talk about is the fact that, yes, you can use your points to pay for the airfare, but that airline is going to pass on taxes and fees onto you for making that redemption. And each airline is different. It depends on where you're flying into or out of, mostly out of, I think. So for me, I don't really mind paying the taxes and fees because, I mean, it's all relative, right? I like to save as much money as possible. So I talked about flying business class to Spain for under $300. That's because I paid $288 in taxes and fees. If I would have paid cash for that flight, I would have paid over $4,000 for that flight. So $4,000 or $288, I'm going to use the points for that. I don't mind paying the taxes and fees. There's going to be people out there who are trying to make that flight as close to $0 as possible. So they don't want to pay taxes and fees, and they're going to try and like find another airline that maybe has lower. I don't really worry about that. As long as I'm saving money and I'm going to have a good experience, I'm fine with that. So that's something that I would say, if you are not familiar with making those types of redemptions, just keep that in mind. You could always book flights through a bank portal. You wouldn't be paying taxes and fees. You're going to pay more points though, probably. So if that's more worth it to you, paying more points than using your cash, I say do what you got to do. But for me, I would rather pay less points and a little bit of cash than more points and no cash. But everyone's different. No such thing as bad redemption.
I love it. And it's true, like you said, I mean, nothing's free exactly. So kind of knowing that you're probably going to have to pay something out of pocket. But like you said, you know, figuring out what that sweet spot is for you. Do you want to use more points or your actual cash? So you have so many amazing tips, Genni. We love it. I feel like now I can just go out there, book another flight, feel comfortable, and I won't feel bad about using like 50,000 miles to go to Miami.
Do it. I love it. Yes, do it. Save that money.
Although my goal this year is to be more strategic and actually maximize. So I've been doing a little bit of research. So one of the things that I love is your platform. So you have your Facebook group, the Lazy Budget Travel Tips, and I'm actually a member. And on there, there's so many great and amazing tips. So as a new beginner, I love how you kind of simplify things for everyone because it's not intimidating and I can actually follow through. And I'm like, all right, this year I'm going to maximize my points as best as possible and actually be a little bit more strategic with the way I spend it as well.
I love it. Yes, my Facebook group, Lazy Budget Travel Tips. We have so much fun in there. I love doing Facebook Lives and answering people's questions. So I didn't know that you were a member. That's so exciting. Yay.
I'll be a soon-to-be member.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely think that it pays to be more strategic with your points and miles. Also think that it's not something you should get hung up on, especially if it's going to be stressing you out. Because the more you do it, the more you learn. Nobody started doing this and they were absolutely maximizing everything from the get-go. Literally no one. So give yourself some grace and do what you can. And eventually you will get to the level that you want to be, whatever that level is. There's nobody that should be telling you what that level is. You're the only one that can figure that out. And I just love being able to help people no matter like what level they are or what level they want to be at this.
I love it.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And I actually feel a lot better about my one annual fee. So I have the United Club card, which I think is like the best United card with Chase. And it's a high annual fee. It's $525. And sometimes I'm like, oh, is this worth it? But the lounge membership, I think, is well over $600. And I'm like, I'm scared of flying. It's a nice place for me to go and decompress. And I may not be able to stick a dollar sign on that, but it really does make the airport a lot less stressful for me. And I had fun in the lounge recently on a trip to Jacksonville because they let you bring a +1 in there. And I don't know, I just feel like better about it because sometimes it's a little embarrassing to be like, hey, I have this credit card and it has a $525 annual fee. And I just feel better about it. Like you've really helped with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that type of comfort is priceless, I feel like. Like I'm always saying, like, you should be able to save money on travel regardless of the type of travel you want to do. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your quality or like your comfort level. You should be able to have like quality travel experiences. And whatever works for you and what's important to you, having that lounge access, that's a priceless benefit for you. And if you've decided that paying the $525 annual fee is worth it, I mean, yay, good for you. Like, good for you. I mean, for taking care of yourself, like that's something that everyone needs to do a little more of, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And another question, because we've talked a lot about, say, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, where you can use the points on any type of platform. Is there ever a time where a specific airline reward program is worth it or a hotel reward program is worth it?
Yeah, absolutely. So with flexible points, just to clarify, it's not that you can use it for any type of program. Each program has a list of like transfer partners. But there's other opportunities to, like, you could use it for the bank portal, through the bank portal, and you can use it for activities, for car rentals. So you just have a lot of different options. But as far as which airlines or hotels are, like, more worth it, a lot of people talk about with Chase being able to transfer your points to Hyatt. That's a huge thing.
I love my Hyatt card.
Yeah. And I love Hyatt. Hyatt is one of my favorite hotel chains. And the reason why it's so valuable to be able to transfer your points is because they are still using an award chart. It's a dynamic award chart, but it's still something where, if I'm staying at this Hyatt, it's a category 4. I am going to pay off peak a certain amount of points, peak a certain amount of points, etc. So you have a range. Other hotel programs, it's dynamic pricing. So if it's $1,000 a night, you're going to be spending a hell of a lot of points. So Hyatt is really valuable in that way. So a lot of people talk about that. So if you are earning Chase points, you probably want to look at Hyatt redemptions. There's a caveat with that though. Hyatt's footprint, as far as like how many properties they have in the world, is pretty small compared to like Marriott or Hilton. But how I combat that is I'm very flexible. I'm fortunate in the way that I don't have to worry about kids in school. I'm not a teacher where I only have certain times of the year where I'm available to really take off. So because I'm able to be flexible, if I want to take advantage of that Hyatt award chart, I'll just go to Hyatt.com, look at their map, and just kind of see where the Hyatts are and whether I want to travel there. That's one of the reasons I was able to get that great redemption at that all-inclusive luxury ranch, was because I basically was like, look, I know we want to go somewhere for an anniversary. Let's see if there's a Hyatt that I can use my points for that we would want to go to. And I basically pulled up the map, looked at places where Hyatts were, and decided, oh, we love Colorado. And that's how I found that ranch. And the rest is history. So flexibility is one way you can combat that. And then as far as airlines go, I think that for me, it's really about finding the sweet spots. So like for Spain, I just Googled what are some sweet spots for Chase Ultimate Rewards, and I wanted to go to Europe. So add Europe in that. And one of the sweet spots was Iberia business class to Madrid. And I was able to find flights from Miami to Madrid in business class for 85,000 points round trip, which if you've looked at redemptions for business class with different airlines, you'll see that 85,000 points round trip for business class flights is like amazing.
It's like really good.
Unheard of. Yeah. So that's what I like to do. I like to kind of like look at the sweet spots. My whole thing is, like I said, to be flexible. So I'm not really somebody who's like, oh, I got to stick with this airline or I got to stick with this hotel. I really like to just like follow the deal, like what's going to get me, like, because I take such a laid back approach to this, I have to then try and find those sweet spots where it's like going to save me the most money if I use my points, you know?
Yeah. And I can't say enough good things about Hyatt. I actually have their credit card and their redemption is amazing. A couple years ago, I went to Washington, D.C. over Martin Luther King weekend. We get a Monday off. And I was able to redeem my points at the Park Hyatt, which is really swanky. And then because I had the credit card, they upgraded me to a suite. I just felt like so bougie. It was amazing. And then when I was talking to some of the people at the hotel, like, because I was just kind of hanging out, getting some work done, they were like, yeah, like, what do you do in New Jersey? And I was like, oh, I'm a teacher. And I'm sure they were thinking, like, what do they pay you in New Jersey? Like, what the? But yeah, really good rewards with Hyatt. I can't say enough good things about them. I love them.
Yeah, Hyatt is just it's a really great chain. When I was working in hotels, one of my clients was Hyatt. I worked with the corporate team at Hyatt, and they just really, really take a lot of time in developing their loyalty program and their different brands for the Hyatt hotel chain. So it's a really, really good program. The properties are amazing. And the fact that you can get something like a Park Hyatt for free with points and with a pretty decent redemption as well. I mean, I just booked a destination property by Hyatt in the UK for October, and it's a castle. And we only spent 15,000 points per night, and usually it's over $300 a night. And 15,000 points a night for something that's over $300 for like a Hilton, I'd be spending like 100,000 points a night or something crazy like that, And with programs, like nowadays, you hear a lot of devaluations. So Marriott had a devaluation just recently, and then Flying Blue as well had a devaluation. Because of that, I really like to be flexible with the programs that I'm earning my points in. Anyways, yeah, Hyatt's a really great program, basically.
And that's a good point, too. Like, don't be a point hoarder. I know people that they just hoard their points. They're like, oh, I just want to accumulate for a better experience. I'm like, you never know what's going to be a better experience. And like you said, you're devaluating sometimes points in the program. So now essentially, yeah, you have 1 million points, but maybe they're only equivalent to, 100,000 points versus as much as they were valued a year ago. So if you have those points, please use them. Don't lose them.
Earn and burn, baby.
There you go.
Don't hoard them.
Another t-shirt motto for us all. Earn
Another
and burn,
slogan.
baby.
Yeah. Yeah, because you just never know nowadays because loyalty programs, they're there to reward their customers, but that doesn't mean that they're gonna be there always, right? So, I mean, anytime they can just be like, sorry, or, take something away. And that's happened. And because of that, you want to use your points whenever you can. Don't save them for a rainy day. Now, if you're saving them for something specific, like we're going to Japan. Well, I mean, I want to go to Japan.
We love
We
Japan.
are such fans of Japan. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
So yeah, so I'm trying to find redemptions for Japan next year in 2026. And so I'm kind of hoarding my Chase points right now. We have over 400,000 points that I'm just kind of like holding on to so that we can use for like business class flights and like hotels and stuff. So if you have that situation, then okay. But just keep in mind that doesn't mean that your points are going to devalue. Like, I don't know, like maybe Hyatt will devalue by then or something, just an example, guys. An example. I don't know if that's happening.
I was about to say Japan has great Hyatts. I didn't pay for my hotel in Tokyo or Kyoto, so FYI.
I mean, if that happens, yeah, that'll be sad, but I'm still not going to be paying full price for travel. So yeah, it sucks, but it's still great, like I'm still not going to be paying full price. So it's a win.
That's awesome. Now, do you use a specific platform when searching for, let's say, for flight deals, or you more or less just go like onto the different airlines or directly to your credit card portal?
I don't really use any like points websites. I know there's a lot out there, like Seats.aero is a really popular one. I try to use it, but I like to use, like for flights, I like to use Google. There's an extension called Points Path that is getting better and better. That's kind of helpful for me that I like to use. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that. It's a Chrome extension called Points Path. It's pretty cool because so when you're searching your flights, it'll show you if the airline is participating in the program. It'll show you whether or not you should use points or cash. It's not perfect. It's still really new, but it's just a nice, helpful tool. It doesn't take everything into account, so I definitely take it with a grain of salt, but it's still something that is super helpful. So I like to use Google Flights, but there are a ton of platforms out there, some that are free, some that are paid. I would encourage people to just try them out and see what works best for them. And then what I like to do when I'm going to be making redemptions is I think, okay, I have a bunch of Chase points. Let me log in. Look at the transfer partners because the list is going to be in there. It's also going to tell me if any of those transfer partners, which would be like airlines or hotels, whether or not they have transfer bonuses. And if there's a transfer bonus, then I'll look at that and I'm like, oh, okay, so for Iberia, there's a 20% transfer bonus. So I'm like, all right, well, are there any flights on Iberia that I would like to take? Do I want to go to Spain again? Stuff like that. And one of the ways that I like to choose is, like I said, is searching for those sweet spots. That really helps narrow things down for me. Or like I said earlier, I may just decide, hey, I want to stay at another Hyatt. Let me just look at the map and see where Hyatts are. I don't want to complicate it too much. So I kind of do a little bit of research, go through the list. I don't bother trying to memorize all the airline alliance partners like people talk about and stuff. If I have a specific destination, I kind of just go through the list of transfer partners and check what redemptions they have. And if a partner or an airline alliance partner has availability, then it'll show up. And if they don't, they don't. So I'm pretty laid back when it comes to the redemptions.
I like how you simplify everything. Makes it very nice and smooth because it can get a little bit complicated. I know, especially with the different airline partners, just kind of figuring out, okay, maybe I'll get a better redemption if I go with Iberia, or maybe I can book through like American Airlines and go through this portal. And it's like a tangle web. And at that point, like, you've lost me. If I have to go down the rabbit hole to try to find a deal, I'm just most likely going to give up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and
it's overwhelming.
It is, and for sure. The currency for Iberia is Avios, and they have their own rules too. And like, so I'm sure that I could probably get a better redemption with like a different, like maybe like Qatar or something. Or now I'm forgetting the partners.
There's so many
airlines
of them.
that earn avios. Like maybe I'll get a better deal with those than redeeming my points through Iberia, but I try not to beat myself up over that, you know? So that's just something that I think as you do this, like I remember the other day somebody posted in the Facebook group, they were like, my gosh, I was so scared about transferring my points, but I did it. And it was so easy. Like, I can't believe I was so scared of doing that. And I'm like, yeah, like if you just do it once, the more you do it, then the easier it becomes. And if you just, like I said, give yourself some grace that you're learning this. And if you make a mistake, it's okay. Then eventually you'll be able to take that step to do something a little bit more advanced. And that each time you do something a little bit more advanced brings you closer to those really like advanced redemptions. But if you didn't take those steps, you would never get there. So you need to just start and you'll figure it out.
Exactly. Just earn and burn.
Exactly.
Earn and burn, baby. Yes. Just try it. And I know it can be scary. I did this with my Chase points. I transferred them to Hyatt. And at first it was really scary because it comes up with this message like, this can't be undone. It's just like, once you click that button, that's it. And I'm just like, you know what? I had a particular Hyatt I wanted to stay in at Women's Travel Fest in New York. And I'm like, you know, I want to stay at this hotel. I'm just going to do it. It's going to all be okay. And now I have no problem doing it. So.
And I've canceled hotels and then my points are stuck. And I'm like, no, but whatever, it's fine. I'll use them eventually. Like I have points stuck in the Flying Blue program and then they just devalued. And I'm like, but you know what?
Womp womp.
It happens.
Give yourself grace.
Exactly. Another thing we should put on t-shirts.
I love that. You're going to have a whole merch store.
Visit my merch store, guys.
No, I feel like, we only scratch the surface and we can be here for hours and hours just talking about points and miles. But if you had to give one piece of advice for our audience to kind of take away from this episode, what would that be?
I would say that there's no right or wrong way to do this. Just do what works best for you. If you take away anything from this, is that. Because that's the one thing I think that holds people back the most is that they think, oh, I'm not going to be doing this right, so why should I even bother? I don't really fit in with what's being projected out there as like people who are finding great redemptions, but stop caring. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way. Just do it the way that works for you. And that's all that matters.
Beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. So before we close out, Genni, do you mind reiterating where our listeners can find you on social media, as well as the name of your fantastic Facebook group?
Yes, you can follow me at Traveling Franklins on Instagram, but I am very active in the Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group, and I'm starting my own podcast. It's called Lazy Budget Travel Tips. I'm very excited. I actually just released the trailer, so you can find that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. You can find the trailer. So if you want to subscribe to that, I'll be releasing episodes weekly very soon. And there's going to be like a mix of solo episodes from me and then some guest co-hosts. And then I'll have some guests. It's all about, simplifying points and miles. It's going to be a little bit of like an educational, I guess is the word. Educational, but then a mix of like real stories in there and stuff. So I'm really excited about it. So I hope that I see everybody in the Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group. And I hope that you subscribe to the podcast.
Hey, that's awesome. I'll definitely be joining the Facebook group now for sure. So that wraps up this episode of Bon Voyage Besties. We love you guys. Go burn those points, enjoy them, travel, have great experiences, and Rosa and I will see you in the next one.
See you guys soon.